The new season of World of Tanks was released last week, which saw the introduction of the Soldiers of Fortune season for World of Tanks console. So we're going to get into the news for next week and what we're going to be seeing in the upcoming days, and of course get into the Q&A as well. And I really want to take some time at the end of this video where we look at some of the things that Wargaming have done well and where I think they're failing. And of course I'm very interested to see what you guys think about the whole state of World of Tanks console right now, as I'm thinking of trying to create a video or just some way of kind of giving my overall opinion along with what you guys are actually thinking. So without further ado, let's get into the video itself. So obviously we saw the introduction of the Soldiers of Fortune season last week, and so obviously right now, which brought in the whole new tank, which is the introduction of this bad boy right here, the Ruthless, which is like an E4 turret on top of a trash like Skoda kind of main kind of armor, I guess hull armor. And yeah, the tank itself is just a very boring tank to play. Do I think it's overpowered? No. Do I think it kind of just is annoying to come up against? Absolutely. Is it annoying to play? Yes. And so it's the introduction of tanks like this that have been the problem in World of Tanks, and we'll get onto that later on. But with the introduction of the new season, we have seen a whole load of new things like the garage customization. We've seen the Ultimate Season Pass. We've seen the introduction of war chests again, which have replaced keycards. Don't worry, if you've got keycards on your account, they basically got converted into the equivalent. It's just literally a cosmetic change as to what they look like. We also saw the introduction of Cold War Medal last week, and a load of other things that came alongside the update. But for next week, we do have a set of daily challenges not connected to the season ones, which is something interesting. So kind of them trying to go into the whole challenges or something else to do other than just your bog standard kind of either mercenary contracts, which I feel are kind of just very boring as well, and they're basically a duplicate of what you'd see with the season pass ones. And of course, yeah, we'll be seeing some other daily challenges. Now, I hope that what they're doing here is they're trying to actually increase extra challenges that aren't just your bog standard ones. It was just going to be annoying if it's like, you know, play 10 games with 1000 XP or get 1000 XP 10 times or something like that. It is just utterly boring. There is literally no challenge to it. Considering the name is supposedly challenges, it's not a challenge. It's just a case of, can you play like 10 to 15 games in a day? Yeah, I mean, very boring. I mean, there's no challenge to it other than can you dedicate the time. Either way, then we also have a new tank of the month tank, which is the AT-15A, which is like a tier 7 AT-15 that is slightly worse and yeah, not particularly amazing, but I really enjoy playing these sorts of tanks. Even if they are slow, they've got that high DPM, so it can make them fun. But a lot of the time, for most people, if you're new to the game, a tank like that is not a good one to start off with because it's slow, it can get tracked, it can get double tracked, you're locked in place, people come around the side of you, you might not know where the good positions are to use a tank like that, and you'll just get rinsed. So if you were a new player, a less experienced player, or someone that hasn't spent, you know, hundreds of days like I have in the game, yeah, this tank is probably not for you. But it is still an okay one and kind of fun when you get to the hang of it, as I'm sure you'll be able to do if you are new to the game, but it will probably be a while before you kind of understand how to use it and use it properly to have good games and enjoy it, because yeah, it's kind of this weird hybrid between being good if in the right hands and being fun, but then equally if you have no idea what you're doing in it, and quite rightly so. If I'd only played 100 or 1000 games, I'm gonna have absolutely no clue how to play this tank, and it feels horrible when it is like that. But either way, it's an okay one for them to bring in. Usually it's $9.99, so you can purchase it. It comes with like 850 gold off the top of my head from what I remember. And then it usually comes with like some XP boosters or like crew XP boosters or stuff like that, which is just like an optional extra that you can pick up as well. Now, alongside that, we've also got a new 3D hero commander, which is the Heinz Volltreffer Kraus. Now, this is what the commander is. It's a 3D hero commander. Surprise, surprise. it is what it is. I mean, this will get you an extra 30% crew XP in every battle you play because it is a premium / hero commander, which gives you that extra XP per game. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. Will it make it a lot easier for you to grind a 9 skill crew? Yes, but do you need it? Debatably no. And so usually they come in the form of about 2,500 gold to pick up one commander, and maybe even more, maybe 4,000 gold dependent on it being a hero one. I don't know. It's really just a case of what wargame we want to put it as. I believe in the past they do them at like 4,000 gold for just the commander. But it is coming. Of course, this week there is no stream on Tuesday, so when the update goes live, there's nothing other than just, you know, the information being dropped on the day of when it comes out. And then on Friday, they'll have the dev stream again. So you'll be able to tune in and see what that's all about. But don't worry, I will keep you up to date with the news if you're interested, so that you can know what's coming and what's about to arrive. But then we move on to the more interesting bit where we find out some of the stuff that's going to be coming in the future. Wargaming asks some questions in the Q&A section, which is always my favourite bit because you never know what Wargaming are going to come out with, and sometimes it's actually good, sometimes it's horrible, and sometimes they're very, very, very vague in their answers. So first things first, we have, can you allow a way to add our 3D commanders into the customizable garage? A fair point. Think it would be cool. It would make 3D commanders more useful, and yeah, I mean, I would have no problems with this. At the end of the day, it doesn't affect anyone other than the person who's going to be putting it in there. So they do plan to add more items to the garage in the future, so we will definitely keep that in mind, and I think that this would be a good change. Much like you can add a tank into your garage now in the background, you should be able to add a commander, but they're not going to guarantee it. It's just it may or may not happen, and it probably will, to be honest with you, to make them kind of more usable, and therefore people want to buy a 3D commander more than they currently do because it doesn't really offer that much other than that crew boost. So other than that, there is how come the cap timer on Nebelberg is 1 minute and 30 seconds, Nebelberg being a pretty big map that you can often get capped in, and it was basically a mistake by Wargaming, and they said we pass this over to our designers, and this was a bug. It has now been fixed. So yeah, now we've got one of the biggest maps actually having a decent time limit to be able to be capped. So yeah, that definitely happened to me in World War II even. So yeah, it's much better now. Are the Soviet double barrel tanks still planned for this year? They're being worked on, but we cannot give date specifics yet. Oh, there's a surprise. It will be another 3 years before we see them in the game. That was very, very vague. It didn't even answer or say like, yeah, they should be this year, but we can't guarantee it. It would be good if Wargaming just came out and said, they're very difficult to bring into the game. We're not sure if it's going to be this year. We're not sure if it's going to be next year, but we are going to try and get them out as soon as possible. It would be a better answer than they're being worked on, but we can't give any dates. Well, yeah, we know they're being worked on, but are you expecting them this year? Are you expecting them next year? Is it going to be a long time? Are you not actually even bothered about making them? And then just be very honest. It seems like there's very... the things that they're very vague on, it's not like it really matters. I mean, all you're going to be giving is like, yeah, they may or may not come this year, but we're hoping to bring them out. Like, there should just be more transparency in that. In my opinion, just so that people know whether they should be expecting them or whether they shouldn't. It just, yeah, I don't get why they're so vague on stuff like this. Now, if it's a brand new line and you want to be a surprise, then yeah, but I mean, this has been kind of teased about 1 million times over the last like 5 years, and we still haven't got them yet. So yeah, I don't even know at this point. Can there be a limit to the number of light tanks per team, particularly in World War II? When there's a contract and a reason for players to gravitate towards certain tanks, then yes, this will affect matches that you're getting into. We could solve things like this by setting a cap, but the issue here is we then have trouble getting these players picking those tanks into matches. Tank types is something we don't currently limit. So for example, there could be 15 light tanks in one game. This is something that is really annoying because recently, with the release of the Ruthless, you've been seeing like genuinely more than half the team being in tank destroyers, which if you're playing a certain class, is going to make it 10 times more difficult for you to be able to have good games. So if there's only one heavy tank on each team and 7 or 8 tank destroyers in a game, you're probably going to get pumped very, very quickly, and you're going to lose all of those hit points, and it makes it very boring because you may or may not even come up against the enemy heavy tank. There should be some kind of cap, like there genuinely should be no more than like 6 of one class in a game. It just feels horrible. Maybe even 6, like 7 of one class makes it very boring, and especially if it's light tanks. So yeah, I would 100% agree with the player that's asked this question, and I think that there should be a limit to a degree. Should it be like only 5 per class? Probably not, but maybe 6. Maybe 7, but 7 is pushing it, as that's nearly half the team being one specific class. Definitely with regards to light tanks, I think it should be around 3, maybe 4 at an absolute push. But yeah, even when it's like that, you can lose games pretty quickly, and it can contribute to having horrible games if your light tanks just decide to YOLO in altogether and die, and then a quarter of the team is dead within the first 2 minutes of the game. So anyway, can we customize the marks of excellence on the barrel with a choice of colors that we want? It's a very unique question, and we can certainly think about it. At a minimum, we can start the conversation and see if it's something we want to pursue. This is something that I feel like would not be something Wargaming would want to do, because of the fact that you have the golden marks of excellence for having 4 marks of excellence. People would probably just make their marks the same color as the gold ones, even though they haven't got it, unless Wargaming limited it so that you couldn't actually apply a yellow or like a camo marks of excellent color that you like is available for the 4 marks. But I mean, out of everything, this is probably something that I wouldn't personally be that bothered about. I mean, everyone knows what marks of excellence are. It would be much better if we could just choose whether we want, for example, when playing the British tanks, you have the black marks of excellence. If you're using like a white tank to give it a bit more of a, I don't know what you want to, like it pops more with the actual camo behind, but sometimes it doesn't really clash, even if it is black on like, I don't know, blue. You'd much rather see the white ones, but you don't have the option of that. It just automatically picks one assigned dependent on what it is, and it would be cool if you could pick the white or black ones dependent on that, since it's just why does it automatically choose it for you? And of course, it's only cosmetic. It's not like it's giving you any advantages. So I think that would be good to be able to say, no, I want it to be always white regardless, or no, I want it to be always black regardless, or for this camo, I want it to be white, for this, I want it to be black, or for this one, I wanted it to be bright purple. I don't know. I just think that it would be better to allow the player to choose which version of the marks of excellence that we currently have they would get. Anyway, moving forward, will we see more equipment in the future? There's nothing currently planned, but in terms of documentation and conversation, then we are definitely thinking about it sometime in the future. This is something I feel like we are missing in the game. There are so many slots that you can use in the game to have equipment, yet there is also very, very limited amounts of equipment, and if you were to increase the amount of equipment they don't have to be game breaking, like it doesn't have to be like, increase your detection after firing by 50% or something like that, but it could be some very minor stuff that would be very niche and useful on certain tank builds, so people could experiment and make these weird builds that people aren't usually thinking could happen, where you could take like a Mauer breaker and make it, I don't know, just very good at turning or something like that. But it just seems like at the minute we're very limited to what equipment you usually take. It's usually between like 5 pieces of equipment. The rest of them are useless for the most part, except for on very specific builds. So if they started to add a couple more bits, it would be more interesting to see, and I think it would be better for the game because people can choose various different types of equipment for the tank they're picking. At the moment, it's usually advanced rammer, advanced optics, ventilation maybe, advanced powertrain to get a bit of speed boost if you need it, and then maybe you'd be taking, I don't know, camo net if you're in a TD. It's very limited on what you take. It's usually the same things, vertical stabilizers if you're in a heavy that needs some bonuses to accuracy. It's really not dynamic whatsoever, and if they were to add more, give more options, people might actually start using things that aren't just the bog standard stuff that everyone uses, and I think that would be cooler to have. Anyway, with that out of the way, could we potentially see a Bovington Tank Museum garage background? Now, this is something that would be really cool, and of course that could be a collaboration that they don't just do with Bovington, it could be with loads of different places, and I think that would be cool to have. It's an extra customization feature. Would I recommend spending a ton of time investing into making things like that? Maybe not, but maybe you could make some garage customization items that are like, you know, from Bovington Tank Museum, or you know, a specific kind of collaboration with someone where you could have, you know, a piece of cosmetic stuff to put into the garage compared to what you normally would get with, you know, the ammo boxes. At the minute, the customization's limited. Granted, it's brand new, and I'm not expecting them to have millions of different customization options, but it would be cool to see a little bit of extra stuff, because at the minute it's quite limited. Can we get map updates like PC for maps like Mountain Pass? The short answer is yes, and our map designer is currently investigating this, seeing how easy it will be. There's no timeline that we can give on that. I'm not expecting them to give a timeline because they're really dependent on whether they want to introduce this. I think it would be good if they gave like the opportunity to have different types of the same map. I mean, yes, because of the fact that, you know, you could have one map or the other. I don't get why it has to be one map of the same map, if that makes sense. There could be different variants. We used to have that back in the day where we'd have different variants of the same map. Some of them were awful and probably shouldn't have been in the game. There was one, I can't remember what the name was. It was like an oil pipeline going through like a jungle that was essentially Arctic region that it currently is right now, and yeah, it was a weird one. I can't remember the name of it, but there used to be a version or skinned version of that map. And then, of course, can we get map updates like, oh no, apologies, what is the win rate for the 215B183? So they didn't give the actual win rate, but the win rate is still currently lower than we would aim, and the average damage too, it currently sits at the bottom of the pack compared to other similar TDs. In a future update, you can expect buff changes. So very, very normal kind of answer. They didn't actually give it. I'm expecting that it's probably gone down. And there's probably less of a reason to use the 215B over the Ruthless. I see a lot of people saying, well, the reload of the Ruthless is huge, and it's like, no, it's only actually 3 seconds longer, and of course you get a much better turret. And of course the FV215B can get penned in the turret by basically everything, and it also has a limited arc. The E4 version, you know, the Ruthless, does get a much better arc, 180 degrees, as opposed to the I don't know what you want to call it, like 100 degree spread. I don't know for the 215B. So yeah, it's interesting for sure, and I just feel like we didn't need the tank, which is where we'll kind of move over to the later portion of this video and kind of talk about that, because at the moment I really want to get your opinions on what you're thinking about World of Tanks. Are you kind of annoyed with it? Are you really enjoying it? As you know, you can really enjoy the game. It doesn't have to be terrible, and I enjoy playing the game. I think the gameplay itself is in a good place right now. I think the game itself is pretty good, other than the fact that they keep releasing these premiums that are just annoying or just infuriating for players to come up against. They might not be blatantly like overpowered, but they're just annoying. Like the AVRE was one example. There's loads of examples. The Turan, that of course has the high alpha and kind of makes other tanks pointless. Things like a Jaeger are just basically pointless when you can play the Turan, which has way better camo, way better mobility, 950 alpha, reloads quicker, just basically a better tank in all regards, except it's premium and you have to pay a load of money to get it. Yeah, I don't like these sorts of designs that Wargaming are going for, and it just makes it annoying to actually play the game when you are coming up against things like this. And hopefully that's given you an indication as to my thoughts on the game, but please let me know in the comments what you actually think about the game right now. Are you happy? Are you sad? Or do you want to see something in particular? As I feel like it's important for us to discuss it. And if you want to watch a video on the actual season, exactly what came, and of course the growth of the brand new tanks, including the rank 100 reward for the season and the ultimate season pass in the Ruthless and the Bandit, you can watch those on the channel already, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the weekend, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.